Hi, Shane.
Hi, Balakrishna. I'm just promoting people to panelists so everyone can have
Awesome.
full access on the call.
Awesome. Let me just go and close my balcony door. There's too much of noise.
Hi, Shane. Good morning.
Before we get started, everyone, I'm just going to show our antitrust policy notice. We we show this at the beginning of every meeting, so no surprises there. Just takes a second to get it. All right, the policy notice should be sharing now. So the antitrust policy, as always, can be found on our website. If you have any questions about this policy, you can ask our counsel, Andy Updegrove. The purpose of the antitrust policy is to make sure that we can talk freely and everyone is always comfortable with what we're doing. Now, before we jump into the main body, Balakrishna, I just wanted to double check that your audio is working okay.
Hi, I'm audible, right?
Oh yeah, there we go. Everything's perfect. And most people have been promoted to panelists, so you have full control of your video and so on. Martin von Willebrand. Hey, Martin, it's been a while. I hope you are well. Just so you know, I hit the button to promote you to panelist, but it's not clear if the promotion was fully done. But regardless, you should have the ability to unmute yourself and join the conversation at any time. Balakrishna, of course, I'm going to hand over to you to run the event, but if it's okay, would it be all right if I ran through something super quickly?
Please, Shane, please go ahead. Yeah.
So the topic of this meeting is basically to work out how we can convert a lot of the documents we have on the GitHub into Markdown. And I thought, what if we had an example quickly from our existing repositories? What if we had a look at something very central to the project? Like here's our 2.1 specification. It's currently in PDF format, and the actual document for translation purposes, apologies for my delay, is kept here as a docx. And it so happens that with the docx, we have Markdown for 2.0, but not 2.1, our ISO standard. So looking at something like this and thinking, how do we convert it to Markdown? There are online services like this that allow us to convert to Markdown and may or may not be suitable. This particular service, I am going to put it into the chat. I'm just selecting that the chat will work for everyone and everyone can use the chat. So this service is word2md.com. And if I choose a file, let's say I go here into my documents, I go into my OpenChain GitHub. Where are we? Oh, specification, naturally, translation templates. I'm choosing the ISO standard here. I ask it to convert. I'm sure there's many, many, many ways to do this. I'm just using this website in some ways to educate myself and as an example. It looks like this website wants me to copy the Markdown to the clipboard, which in my view is not ideal, but it functions. And once I copy it into the clipboard, I can put it into a new document. And then I can save that new document beside the existing document on the OpenChain GitHub. So right beside what we saw earlier with the specification under translation templates, I can save this document as a Markdown document. Now I'm saving that in the same folder that we were looking at just a minute ago. This is the folder here. And I'm going to add the file via GitHub right now. So I'm adding the Markdown version of the 2.1 document. This was submitted as a normal pull request. And there we go. The 2.1 document is Markdown, which basically looks okay. Needs some formatting, like number 1, scope has no space, but mostly the document transferred over. So just a note, with something like Word to Markdown, we may be able to use a site like this, quickly generate, and then have a task to double check how those Markdown documents work. I just wanted to flag that just as a note and an idea before handing over to you, Balakrishna. So the call is yours.
This was great, Shane. Thank you for showing us how you do it. And I was already checking today morning that you have, I think, converted quite a few documents and merged them already. I was looking at the curriculum, I guess. Where is it? Oh yeah, here. Yeah, I was saying that you have already made some changes in the open source policy GitHub repository, and you have updated some of the doc files or text files to MD. So thank you for that. I think these examples and the demo you gave right now, it's very helpful. So what we can do is all of us present here, we can decide on taking up one repository each, and not when I say one repository each, doesn't mean that all of us have to completely finish one repository each, just to avoid the confusion and to avoid duplicacy in work. Probably it can be like, okay, if I would be working on reference material per se, one of you can take up specification, like Shane has already started with specification, and another one can start with online certification or telco or contribution onboarding. We can choose one repo each and then start working on documents like that. Or what we can do is we can drop an email saying, hey, I'm working on so and so file, I'm converting it to MD, so that others can avoid duplicating the same work. Which one would you think would be better?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Since I don't seem to be any way of raising a hand. So when this was mentioned in one of the webinars before, I didn't actually even know what Markdown was. Mm-hmm. So I think it would at least be helpful to be clear what we're intending to do here. Is the intention to end up having a Markdown version of every single document, or is the intention that the Markdown version of the documents are the masters going forward? Because I think those are two separate different things, and I'd like to get it clear from the outset.
Well, that's a good question, Martin. So, see, if the original intention why we proposed I asked Shane if we could go with MD was because the docx or the doc or PDF, PPT, all these documents, they have platform dependency, right? But .md file, it can be directly taken up in any txt repo, txt reader, or it would even these MD files could also be incorporated into other platforms or web applications directly without having to convert it or reformat it or anything, right? So that was one of the reasons from my end. But otherwise, I'm really not sure if it's going to be the master henceforth, because some of the formatting that we get from PPT and doc, that would be very much necessary when we are giving presentation outside in the community, outside of the community as well. So this is something which we need to discuss, and I think I would pass this question to Shane. Shane, what do you say?
Oh, again, if I can jump in, I think related to that is that might drive the kind of process that we take forward. Like, for example, some of the docs, maybe it's worth having a minor update of them at the same time. So that's why I'm asking the question. I think there's a philosophical decision to be made as to what we're trying to achieve. I understand the point of having a markdown version. It's just a case of what we're actually overall philosophically trying to achieve here.
Yeah. So yes, you are right, Martin. There's also some technical debt we have to work on. Not only the specification documents or the curriculum documents. There's many things we need to rework on. We need to update the documents from the last time. I think we can take up that activity as well during the conversion. But what I would say is we can take it step by step. First, we convert the documents to Markdown. This is what I would suggest. We convert it to Markdown, review it so that the formatting is taken care of within the Markdown, like how Shane gave a demo now. Once that is done, we commit the Markdown files to the repo. Post that, the next commit could be updating of the debt, what needs to be taken care of. What do you say?
So just touching on the topic as well, I think, Martin, we have basically two types of document, and the majority of the documents are pretty simple documents that could exist as a Word document original or a Markdown document original with no particular gain or loss of fidelity between the formats. And in those cases, because there's no advantage of being in a format that's not text-based, that's not Markdown, I think we should probably aim towards having the master as Markdown. But we also have other documents which are more sophisticated. For example, we have leaflets, and perhaps in those cases, we can say that something like Markdown provides us with a way to have the document that you can easily consume and change into other formats, and B, allows us a quick way to edit it. But the ultimate master of the document, the thing that you would hold in your hands and say this is the finished document, will include more complex formatting than Markdown allows. So our supplier education leaflet fundamentally mixes more complex layout and some images with text. And in that case, the true document is probably the InDesign and PDF document. So I think we could say then the vast majority of our documents will gain nothing from being in complex formats, and therefore their masters should probably move to just Markdown, just text, which we then convert into the other formats. And some more complex documents, their master remains some other format like InDesign, but maybe we try to put the emphasis of our editing activity on the Markdown variant, which we then incorporate into the complex formatting variant before declaring a new release. Those are just my thoughts. And I notice we have some great comments in the chat as well. Marcel is saying that if we're using Markdown, let's say whether or not we're saying that it's a Markdown master or not, we should probably have some guidance on editors to help people. Stephen notes there are different versions of Markdown, so the target variant should be identified. And Marcel further notes that, okay, good practices for integrating Markdown might also be something to have. So, to put it simply then, it sounds like we might need to create an introduction to Markdown as OpenChain intends to use it. We might need to create an introduction for our intent. Let's say simple documents go to Markdown master. Complex documents, we edit them in Markdown and then integrate into the more complex design master, like InDesign. And maybe that guidance can frame what we're doing. I'm just going to pause here and see what everyone thinks.
And as part of that, do you think this would be all versions or just the latest versions?
Personally, I think
I'd vote for latest.
Yeah. I mean, intellectually, we'd say, oh, let's convert everything. But I think what we should do is essentially say that everything that happened in the past was great, but the future is this new direction. So latest version onward.
Yeah.
I think, Shane, the discussion we were just having on why we are doing that would be an important introduction to the leaflet for the rationale behind that activity, because I was not sure as well, why would we want to do that and put that much effort in there? So it's good for everybody if we say, yeah, we do this because of, and then what we just discussed, have some of the ideas behind it.
It's a really good point, because some people, a lot of people, I guess, would look at this and think, well, isn't changing format a little bit like refactoring code? It's one of those bright ideas that's going to waste a ton of time. And contextualizing that what we would love to have is a way that it's just so much easier for people to make a quick edit and share it than having all of the complexity of larger tools may help. This touches on something Martin mentioned, which is, if we're doing a Markdown conversion, is this also the time where some minor tweaks and so on to documents just fit naturally? And Martin, I think the answer might be yes, because as we just look at a document again, we do the Markdown conversion, we quickly look at it to see if the conversion has a few problems, like I did the spec and it had some white space errors, just spacing problems. I guess when we do that with many documents and just glance at it, we'll find a few things to change. So, conceptually, I think we should maybe look at this as prep for having a super easy editing format for the future. Plus, given that we're looking at a document anyway, if we catch any obvious, simple areas for improvement, just do it right now. Does that make sense to you, Andreas and Martin?
Yeah, sure. And I also would like to add, we have quite a lot of amount of documents. And would it not make sense to look into, can we find a fully automated solution? You just showed this one web page, but maybe we can find something where we can just give it a full directory and it would convert everything. And then we just review what comes out at the end, so that we save this manual step of selecting files and going through everything one by one. That will also cost lots of time if we have thousands of documents.
It's a really good question. I actually don't know the right answer. I suspect we might have a problem with trying to do scale as opposed to one by one, because our repository, our reference material repository, is a complex hierarchy of folders containing all types of document formats, PowerPoint, PDF, etc., etc. So I imagine that probably it would be hard to find a tool that could take all of that and output Markdown in the same directory structure without falling over all the time. But that's speculation. I just don't know.
Yeah, it may be good, or what I want to say, it may be good to put in some thoughts if we could write a script or do something smart instead of doing everything manual.
It's such a good point, Andreas, because I mean, if there was, let's say, a recursive script to check the reference repo and take every doc file and convert it to Markdown, and then you open the repo again and you're just looking, oh, there's the Markdown docs right beside the Word docs, and now we just do our editing. It could save us a lot of time with drag and drop.
Yeah, but again, for the PPTs, I don't think we can per se convert it to a acceptable Markdown right away yet, because Markdowns do not support images as far as I know. Or if they do, please do correct me. For the, even if we have to write a script, probably we can write a script. We can look at writing a script for the doc files to be converted and then look into it. Yeah, just a thought.
Well, I wouldn't publish the stuff without having it manually checked anyway.
Yeah.
I think that would be a bad idea. It kind of seems like it might be quite a lot of work for unclear point to me, I think, as a general activity, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then I think this activity would also be like a one-time activity, and further on, when a new document is created, it would be parallelly be created in .md unless it is required for an external presentation. Then it would be converted to a complex format, like Shane mentioned, right? So
yeah, certainly from my point of view, I don't think I have time to do this for stuff which I'm not looking at anyway, right? If it's something that's aligned with what I currently think is important and I'm working on, it makes sense to potentially do a Markdown version at the same time.
So for time being, we can give a shot of converting this one file at a time. Let's say there are quite a lot of us. We can pick up one file each whenever we are free, and we can start converting them to MD, review it, and committing them. We will see in what pace it goes, and then think about automating it. How does it sound?
I think doing a test, trying out a few things sounds great. Just basically to find out how much hassle it is.
Yeah.
So if the consensus is this is a real pain, then perhaps instead of having an overarching goal of let's eventually convert everything, we just define it as let's convert our high priority targets and stop there. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Martin.
Well,
you're gonna jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say, quite honestly, it's already a hassle for me, right? I don't have any issue with using Word or PowerPoint. I already have those. I'm well familiar with those. I can handle it. Simple as that. I'd rather spend my time moving things forward rather than just creating and checking different formats of old versions for some people that isn't me, quite honestly. I think generally people would prefer me to be doing something more productive for everyone.
Martin, I'll give you one simulation here. So you might have observed in last couple of weeks when we were discussing about the playbook, we had a question that, okay, which platform do we use for collaboration across the globe without any hassle, right? There was a hassle with accessing Google Docs. There was hassle with OneDrive. Also, we were not able to settle on a solution which would be acceptable for all the regions without any limitations. But if we had the setup for playbook with MD in a GitHub already, then it would be accessible for all the locations already, and then we did not have to worry much about the collaboration over there. We could just say, hey, we collaborate here directly, and the editing is also much easier.
Yeah,
that can be one
that's
of the
fine.
applications.
I'm not particularly against that. I guess I'm saying that I won't be volunteering for converting random documents. I just
No
don't think
problem. You
it's
can
a
help us
particularly
reviewing if you're interested.
exactly. And if there are other people that are willing and want and to do that and see value, I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. I guess I'm setting a bit of expectation here is that I think I've personally got more important things to do. So whilst I see that this activity has value, it's not the most value thing for me. And I think it is worth having a careful thought about the approach, which might be that you go through a list of documents, work out which ones you think should be converted to Markdown, and then perhaps prioritizing which ones and take it that way so that it's at least a managed amount of work to be done. I'm sure there are some people who will be much more interested in doing grunt work like that than me, and that's fantastic. That's the whole point of having a community, right? So we all pick up what we're interested in and want to do.
Sounds cool. Okay then. So I think we have some clarity on how do we proceed, and we also know that we have good support in converting and reviewing and all the places. So I think we can start with the initial setup of work, and let's see how much of a hassle this would be for us to convert the files individually, and later on probably we can decide if it's too much of a hassle to convert the files and review each of them. In the next meeting, we can make a list of files which needs to be considered as high priority for converting the files into MD from the current versions, and we will address those files. Meanwhile, if we have any contributor who is, who thinks it's very easy activity to get one script which which can handle multiple multiple documents to be converted to MD, that would also be great, and then we implement that.
Yeah, and I should just say that I think it would actually be fantastic for that activity to review in a few weeks' time to say, okay, as has kind of been mentioned in the chat, there are these tools. We recommend you use this particular one or whatever, so that particularly for new OpenChain content, it is one of the standard things that Markdown versions are created going forward. And we make that as easy as possible for people by pointing them in the direction of useful tools that we know work.
Done. We can do that. So today, I and Shane, we will connect again. We will draw a small email which would list steps of. We can use the same web application which Shane has shared for converting the documents to MD. So we will draw steps on how to use that and what would be the next set of steps they need to do after converting the file to .md, and do a git commit and then push the file to Git repositories. So we will send that email, and then we have a point from Stephen which says, just let me know which ones to try first. I would say, Stephen, probably you can pick up something from specification, because that is one of the most referred repositories of OpenChain project on GitHub. At least that's what I know. Shane, please, would you like to?
I think that's right. And maybe as an outcome of this call, Stephen, I'll follow up to the list with an email and with just a couple of suggested areas where people could maybe grab a doc that might be interesting to convert and test. So I'll put that as part of the follow-up to this call. I see Martin just left, and just wanted to say huge thanks to Martin for his contributions to the talk. And very, very good point that we might need to prioritize the key targets so people know exactly where they can put their emphasis and energy. I mean, it's the same thing Stephen said, what to do. Oh, Martin von Willebrand just noted that can help with this, better have some start for the best practice, communicating who's working on what doc. So it sounds, Balakrishna, it sounds like our takeaway is maybe we collaborate on doing the framing guide that explains why we're doing this, how we're doing this.
And we can create a small mail trail which would, consist details of who's working on what.
All right.
We can use the same mail trail as the mail invite which you sent out, and people can just drop a notice saying, hey, I'm working on so and so file. All
right. It sounds like we have a plan.
Awesome. I think this is the most structured plan in some time we have had.
Well, I guess we wrap it up there, and thank you everyone for all of your time today, especially Balakrishna for chairing this meeting.
Thank you all, and thank you, Shane, for giving us the demo and then arranging this meeting. Thank you very much.
Take care all. Bye-bye. Stay healthy.
Thank you as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.